Hi guys, welcome back to Beauty Within. It's your greasy girl, Phil. Today we're going to be talking about one of the most popular skincare ingredients out, hyaluronic acid. Simple, but complex. And it's commonly found in a lot of the skincare products that we're probably already using, from cleansers to toners, serums, moisturizers, and masks, and everything in between. And for a good reason, because they are an essential building block to our skin and what keeps us from looking like dehydrated raisins. So for this video, we've partnered up with Foreo, and I'm going to be sharing with you guys my personal tips on how to layer, how to use hyaluronic acid, as well as some of my favorite products. Then we looked into the most asked questions about this ingredient and found some answers for you guys, so make sure you watch till the very end. Subscribe if you haven't, and let's get into it. So I know we talk a lot about different acids like chemical exfoliants, you have your HAs, you have your BHAs, and some of you might be wondering why hyaluronic acid isn't included. Well, that's because it's actually not an acid. It's actually a type of sugar called glycosaminoglycan, and what it does is bind with water in our bodies to create a jelly-like substance. And this substance acts like a moisturizing lubricant and creates a cushioning effect between the fibers in our skin, the collagen and elastin, which keeps us looking fresh and plump and young, as well as in our tendons, our muscles, and even our lungs. And on that note, deep breath. And on top of that, it helps with wound healing, so you can see it's a pretty big deal. And actually 50% of our body's hyaluronic acid can be found in our skin, but mostly within the deeper layers of our dermis, and it's responsible for maintaining a good balance of moisture, which is one of the main components of cell growth. And when your skin lacks hyaluronic acid, it causes it to lose elasticity and it dries out your skin, leading to more like visible wrinkling and fine lines. So it's super important to keep balanced levels of hyaluronic acid in our skin. Ding, ding. Now that we know where it comes from, let's talk about how we can best use it in a routine. For me, how I like to use hyaluronic acid is actually the toner serum forms, because in other products, they're more of like a supplementary ingredient rather than the focus. So first I'll go in with a cleanser. You can really just go in with any of your choice, because in a wash-off form, it doesn't really have the effects of holding and retaining moisture to the skin. But yes, just kind of keep in mind that hyaluronic acid in a cleanser is not really going to give you the effects of that plumping. So after cleanser is where the party at. On a normal day or night, I'll go into the toners that I've been really liking, but on days, you want to wind down, self-care, this is when I'll actually use the Foreo UFO 2. So first you take the mask out of the little sachet and attach it onto the device, and then you clip it in, and then you need to pair it with your app, and then the app connects to the device and actually walks you through the 90-second spa process. And it's so awesome because it starts off first with the heated thermal therapy, and then you kind of glide it all over across the face. And what I feel like it does is really help to break down any grime, and it loosens the debris that's in your pores, and it just creates this really nice heated feeling that you really wouldn't be able to get anywhere else unless you did kind of go to these like spa sauna like facials. And then you'll start to feel the sonic pulsations. There's like a brief 10 to 15 seconds of it pulsating, which further just adds to that experience while it's still warm. And then it will start going into the cryotherapy part of the 90-second facial. And this feels so nice on the skin, because then you almost feel like everything is then like sucking back up, it's tightening, it's firming. And because I actually have the first version, this one's a little bit different because it contains more LED light selections, which will give you subtle effects on the skin over prolonged use. And all the while, the mask is hydrating your skin in all the different areas while combining the heat and the cold, as well as the active ingredients to all work together. So it just gives you an entire spa-like experience in 90 seconds. And with the mask, they have two in particular that is concentrated with hyaluronic acid. The first is the Make My Day with hyaluronic acid and red algae. And as we know, algae or seaweed is one of those really traditional ingredients that really help the skin retain moisture. And over time of repeated use with hyaluronic acid and ingredients like this, it'll help keep the skin elastic, keep it firm, vibrant, and glowing. If you're like Rowena or you're just feeling super dry and dehydrated, there's also the H2O overdose, which is like an ultra hydrated hydrating formula of the mask because it's not only got hyaluronic acid, but also aquasil, which is there to really replenish the skin's water reserves. And as we said before, we need to really balance that so that it's not lacking and it won't start pulling hydration from other parts of our skin. So the great thing is you can use this day or night. It's just whenever you have 90 seconds. And what I like most about using hyaluronic acid is because it creates a really great base for then layering different active ingredients to go with it. Because it's one of those ingredients that just has a lot of friends. It goes with vitamin C, it goes with AHAs, BHAs, it goes with niacinamide. So after this stage, you can really start to see and pinpoint what other areas of your skin you want to target with a serum and then your moisturizer. So after that 90-second treatment, our skin is nice and damp and plump and ready for other active ingredients to really be able to sink into the skin and do its job, because hyaluronic acid is really great not only applied onto damp skin because it's a moisture magnet, but it also sets the greatest foundation for other active ingredients to then come in and synergistically work its magic. So if I have like acne marks and hyperpigmentation, maybe I'll use a vitamin C serum or even azelaic acid or niacinamide, because all of these work so well with hyaluronic acid. And because recently I've been trying to fade some of the hyperpigmentation left over from little random breakouts here and there, I've been using the vitamin C serum from Vichy, and it's their Liftactiv vitamin C serum that contains 15% of it. And the reason why I love using this serum with the mask is because it's so lightweight. It's almost like a watery consistency serum. And that's just something that I really look forward to. As well as that, I've really been loving the Mandelic acid from Naturium. Once again, because it's also really lightweight, but does a lot to help with hyperpigmentation, and it pairs beautifully with an ingredient like hyaluronic acid. So then after that, I'll just kind of put a few drops, apply that on, and then top it off with one of the most important steps, moisturizer. So for moisturizer, I've been using the Venn all-in-one age reversing, and what it does is just really lock everything in to make sure that the hyaluronic acid isn't evaporating from the skin, that it's got a nice moisture layer to trap that all in and hold it tight without making it feel sticky, which is really important for those of you, if you know, who have oily skin. You don't want it to feel thick or heavy and weighed down and you're kind of like stuck and plastered onto your pillow. So that is kind of what my nighttime routine can definitely look like on maybe a Friday or a Saturday or whenever you just need a pick-me-up and you want some me time. Now let's talk about hyaluronic acid in our fabulous skincare products, because we also hear about different sizes, right? Like from small, medium to large. So what does that even mean? Hyaluronic acid comes in many forms, and the most common variety has a long, moisture-locking molecular structure that is too large to penetrate the skin's outer layer, our epidermis. And this is why sensitive, dry, and dehydrated skin types can really benefit from the larger molecular hyaluronic acids in order to maintain a good moisture level and to help repair damaged skin. Then with the medium-sized ones, these molecular weights are what helps our epidermis once again stay plump and hydrated. And it's also found that higher molecular weights can bring anti-inflammatory effects to the skin, which makes sense since they are there to help rebuild our skin barrier. And that leaves us with the small molecular-sized hyaluronic acid, which can penetrate the space between the skin cells and moisturize from within while filling up the gaps in places where the high and the medium molecular weights of hyaluronic acid cannot reach, leading to that plump, bouncy, and glowing skin that we all yearn for. But there's also a catch. Even though ideally lower molecular weights are supposed to reach into the deeper layers of our skin, it might only be able to reach within the deepest part of the epidermis, which is still the top layer of skin. And according to Dr. David Lim, hyaluronic acid molecules are pretty big, so even the smallest sizes are still too big to penetrate into the dermis, where your collagen and elastin are located, and it's actually being synthesized to produce collagen. And the only way for hyaluronic acid to reach into these deeper layers is actually through filler and injections, which is why, fun fact, if you do get Botox, sometimes it is done through hyaluronic acid fillers. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't use hyaluronic acid, because it is an ingredient that is great for all skin types. It helps to rebuild your skin, helps with plumping and firming, so we still do really benefit from it. So for me, actually, this year has been the year of subtly getting excited over hyaluronic acid, because previously I just thought hyaluronic acid was kind of like a boring ingredient. It was always there. I was like, why do you need to buy a serum that just concentrates on hyaluronic acid? But I was wrong, because there's a handful that have really revolutionized what hyaluronic acid is in my routine. So for example, there's the Haruharu Wonder Black Rice Hyaluronic Acid Toner. What a mouthful. And as we know, when anything is fermented, it really breaks down the ingredient so that the skin can absorb it much more easily. And it has amino acids, proteins, and this toner also has a technology called the Ultra Deep Technology, which encapsulates the Panax ginseng as well as the fermented black tea and hyaluronic acid so that it delivers it deeper into the skin, and it completely evened out my skin. I couldn't believe it. Over time, it was like 1 or 2 weeks my skin was clear. And if we want to talk about different layers and sizes of molecular size, the NIOD multi-molecular hyaluronic acid is one of my go-tos all the time because it is so lightweight and it's got like so many different sizes, so it's really helping all the layers of the epidermis stay plump, hydrated, and really just protected. And you can see this like radiant glow after using hyaluronic acid over time, because it does really help to squash and quell any hydration related skin concerns, which can also be acne. There's also the Fresh Rose Toner, which is really hydrating. It's got rose oil, it's got rose water, it's got a plethora of rose elements in there, and it's probably one of the most hydrating toners out, and it looks beautiful. And then a more recent one is the Glow Recipe Plum Serum, which Ro and I absolutely fell in love with at first application because the texture of it is just so plumping and glass skin-like, and is very subtly scented, probably the most subtle of their entire range. And it's got Kakadu Plum, so it's got subtle brightening qualities. And all of these are just kind of like different forms. So it depends on what it is that you're looking for. You can really reap the benefits. Those are just my favorite picks of hyaluronic acid products and brands, but you can see they all have different price points. And I think for an ingredient that's so well researched like hyaluronic acid, you can go to your more affordable ones. Like The Ordinary has a great hyaluronic acid that also has vitamin B5, which is panthenol, and it will still deliver the result that you really want. So it's up to you looking into the supporting ingredients to see what it is that you might want with hyaluronic acid. So we talked about the ingredients that hyaluronic acid works well with, right? Vitamin C, HA, BHAs, which are great to kind of counter any drying effects that could be caused with the increased cell renewal. And it also works well obviously with niacinamide, because both of them are just like happy-go-lucky ingredients that work well with everything. There is one that I personally found didn't work too well, and it makes sense. It's retinol, because retinol can be really powerful. It does wonders for the skin in terms of collagen and elastin production, helping to plump up the skin, but it also comes with drying effects. And it's usually recommended that you put retinol onto dry skin because you don't want the retinol or the vitamin A to sink in too deeply, which is what causes the irritation, which causes redness and flushing and, skin peeling. So it kind of counteracts hyaluronic acid, which is best used on damp skin. So you can see where it kind of like clashes a little, but you can still use a moisturizer that has hyaluronic acid. You can also just use it in separate routines. It's more about the damp skin principle with retinol. Something to keep in mind. All right, now let's talk about some misconceptions and frequently asked questions. The first comment that we see is sometimes hyaluronic acid doesn't work on our skin, or it gets irritated from using products that contain it. So this could be many different reasons. First of all is that our skin doesn't always react well with every single ingredient, and it's different for every single person. So even though it is a really skin-friendly ingredient, much like niacinamide, there are definitely skin types and skin conditions that won't work well with it. Secondly is that hyaluronic acid products are formulated sometimes with other supporting ingredients. So you want to really make sure that it's hyaluronic acid that is causing the skin sensitivities rather than like the other ingredients that it's formulated with, to kind of isolate it so that you can truly be sure that it is indeed HA. And then if you do find that it is the hyaluronic acid that is causing any irritation on the skin, it could be the fact that it is the low molecular weights of hyaluronic acid, because as we said, those are able to travel through our skin a little deeper, which could be the reason it's causing a little bit more irritating effects. But with that, the products aren't natural HA, they're like lab made, so that could also be a reason. So if you do experience any kind of inflammation, irritation, sensitivities, what you can do is just try another product that might contain hyaluronic acid, but it's a completely different formula. See if the same thing happens and try to isolate the ingredient that you're trying to figure out, and that way you can really find out and ixnay it from your life. Next question, are there any alternatives to hyaluronic acid? So if, for example, you just don't want to use this ingredient or your skin can't tolerate this ingredient, there's beta-glucans, there's glycerin, which can be found in most of our products that we see. So beta-glucans are sugars found in mushrooms, rice, and also oats, and they're commonly found in skincare products formulated for eczema skin, dermatitis, and even like burned or like cut skin, because these ingredients are really great for wound healing. So that's why you'll see that. Glycerin is another ingredient that's very similar to hyaluronic acid in being able to give the hydration, and is typically found higher up in the ingredients list of most of our products, which means there is a high percentage of glycerin in the things that we use. So if you do find that glycerin is higher up on the list than maybe sodium hyaluronate or hyaluronic acid, they are kind of working together to give your skin hydration. Next question, is it possible to lay up multiple layers of products containing hyaluronic acid? The answer to that question is really personal. Like for me, I would say it's perfectly fine to have hyaluronic acid formulated in like all the products that I have, because normally they are found sometimes in the middle of the ingredient list, which means there's like not that much of it anyway. And if it's towards the end, you know that's not a product focused on hyaluronic acid, but there would be a plethora of different hydrating ingredients in that product. To me, it's more of a subtle ingredient that can definitely be worked through my entire routine to the point where I don't even like think about it really. And it's not like a chemical exfoliant where I need to be like really vigilant in making sure that it's not here and it's here, and it's, you know, it's kind of just like, it's hydrating and it doesn't give me any irritation. So that is one of the reasons why I think it's such a great ingredient for any skin type, especially dry, dehydrated, but especially for oily skin types, to help regulate your sebum production and countering that with hydration. But one thing I will say is that if a product is really focusing on hyaluronic acid, then you can just let that product shine. So for example, if there's already 15 different molecular weights in the NIOD, then I can just go straight to my moisturizer. There's no need to add any more hydration to that. It's doing its job. So that all comes to formulation. And once again, it really does just come down to what your skin can tolerate, what you enjoy putting on, and then seeing the effects of it. Every day it will be a little bit different and you can make changes accordingly. So that's how I would approach hyaluronic acid. So guys, that is the video highlighting one of our favorite ingredients that does the most, but is really chill about it, and it doesn't speak loudly, it just does its job. Hope you guys learned a thing or two. And if you guys are interested in treating yourself or someone else in this time of giving and gifting, Foreo has their once a year sale, so you can check out all the details in the link below if you're curious about the UFO 2 or even the Luna, which you guys know I love, and the Fofo, the little mini one, I love. Talked about it in our 2020 Holy Grail products. So stay tuned for that if you want a little bit more information. And thank you guys so much for watching along with us, learning with us on our skincare journey all together. And we'll see you very soon in the next video. Bye. Actually, a type of sugar called glycosaminoglycan. Let me do that again. I got stressed out because the words split up on two different lines. Okay. Which then leaves us with the too small. Now that we know where it comes from, sounds like a kid. Mom, where did I come from?